Hey everyone, welcome back to this beautiful channel. It's your favorite webcomic creator and animator, the Chainsaw Maniac. And in this video, I will be talking about the Moving Meditations 3D challenge, which was made by Punisher. And there are some really awesome prizes. I suggest you check out his channel, which will be in the card above. If you guys want to check out the challenge that he put up, I'll put the video there. And if you guys enjoy the content that I do and you would like to see more, I suggest you hit up that like button, subscribe, as well as ring that notification bell to be notified of any other video I do on this channel. So this is my first 3D challenge I've actually done, because I've been like on a challenge and contest binge this past few months now, and everyone who has watched my channel has known this for quite some time now. So this was actually my first 3D challenge, and I'm looking forward to doing more. For those of you who don't know what the 3D Moving Meditations challenge is, basically what happens is they send you, basically what it is a compilation of 3D moving motion animation. And basically what happens is they give you the animation, they give you the camera, they set up the scene for you, but all you have to do is add the assets and make it look cool basically. And that's all you have to do. So you have to get your characters and your backgrounds and concept for what you want to do for this thing. It's not really a long thing. The cool thing about the challenge is it was like 144 frames, which means it wasn't that long, basically 6 seconds, which is cool. Didn't have to do too much. Not like I was rendering out a whole short film over here. The only problem was that I heard about this challenge very late, and I only had 9 days to complete it, so I didn't really get the time to do all the cross simulations, all the other crazy stuff I could have done. But I did the best that I could within the 9 days, and I think I did pretty well. I wish I had more time for like composition and stuff like that. I did everything within Blender that I could do. I wish I could have chucked it into like After Effects and do a little bit of vignetting and all types of crazy stuff in there with the effects and everything. But I still haven't gotten a hang of Blender's composition thing. And I think this was a way for me to experiment with that. But unfortunately, I didn't get the time to mess with the compositor in Blender. So yeah, maybe another time, another challenge, you know what I'm saying? But let us take a look into what I basically went through those 9 days of hell that I had to put together this challenge for. Actually, it wasn't really hell. I was actually quite chilled. I took my time with what I could, and I did what I can. And I'll be going through, basically, I've recorded like my process and what I've done so far, and I'll just be going through the videos and pointing out exactly what happened, maybe something I could have improved on, something I could have done better, what I did to create certain effects done for certain elements within the 3D animation itself. And so basically you guys can learn from my process, or maybe you can point out some of those things that I could have done better, or what I could have improved on. I feel like that's the best way to improve, getting your guys' input as well. For those of you who are also quite proficient in Blender and you know how the thing works, and maybe you could have point out or give me some advice on what I could do, or maybe you have your own techniques of dealing with certain problems, and maybe that could have made the process faster. But without further ado, let's get into this. So first of all, I got the animations, and basically I put together everything. It wasn't easy at first because I didn't know what the fuck I was doing. Yeah, I don't have actually a recording of me putting together the rig, but let's just say it didn't come out pretty well. So diving into the Discord server, thank God for Punisher's Discord server, or Clint's Discord server. It's a good thing he had that, because I went on there and I showed you how to set it up in Blender. There's a few settings, a few buttons you have to click. Whiz bang boom, you have your rig right on your characters, all ready to go. So I did a few tests the first couple of days, I guess the first day or so, just to test out how I would position the rig and all types of things. And then I fixed up the animation as well, because there was a bunch of clipping going on, a bunch of weird shit going on. So yeah, I tried to fix that as much as I could. The character was the first thing I had to start with, because I had to build on it. And the character, I had a concept for it because it's the character in my webcomic. If you guys haven't checked it out and you want to see some of my work, it's not that good, to be honest with you. I'm not the best comic artist, but I am pretty decent. Also, I do it all in Blender as well, except for the piecing together of the comic that I do in Clip Studio. But otherwise, I draw it all in Blender and set it up all in Blender. So the characters from my comic, so it's Nathan, the hero killer, basically. That's kind of his thing. And basically the idea I had, this is my first idea I had. Fortunately, I didn't have freaking enough time to do it, but I was gonna use some geometry nodes in Blender to do some crazy visual effects. But but unfortunately I didn't get time to do that, like I've said. So I went to the next best thing, a nice closed environment. I thought to myself that would actually work pretty well, and it will work well within the time, so I can make the character look good, because I noticed a lot of people focused more on the background. I guess that makes more sense. For the previous challenges we have done, or Clint has done on his channel, you know, it was more so the background, but I wanted to focus in more on the character aspect for my animation and everything. I wanted to focus more on the character. I was going to do some cloth physics, but we'll get into that. There's an easy way to actually do that. Basically, I started off with the character concept, and I didn't have time to actually sculpt the entire face because I didn't have time. So I stole a face from this website called, I think, Ready Player something, and basically they have nice looking stylized Fortnite type characters, and I thought it would be a cool way to start off with a base for my stylized character, because I wanted to go for a more stylized kind of like more close to my comic style type of feel. So I grabbed one of those faces to use as a base mesh for my face, and I chucked it in there. Then I was gonna sculpt out some muscles, which I did actually. As you can see in the video, I'm sculpting out my muscles and making it look all nice and defined. And I think once it was all nice and defined, I just chucked it out the window, because I realized, fuck, I don't have enough time to sculpt all these muscles and make it look really good, and with all the flexing and stuff. And I thought to myself, you know what, this character anyways, you know, he has like these wraps on his arms. It's like a cloth wrap type of thing. So I was like, you know, you're not going to really see the bulging muscles. If cloth is like covering your muscles and it's tightened over your arms, you're not going to see the muscles bulging, because it's kind of going to wrap around. So I thought to myself, okay, that's going to be a waste of time. Don't do that. And so I continued on and just kind of box modeled and moved around the topology a bit, just to make it look more muscular, look more, you know, thick in certain areas. He has very big shoulders, very big, what do you call these muscles here by your neck? I forgot what you call it. Is it clavicle? I can't freaking remember. But anyway, those, you know, muscles here, you know, those, you know, by the neck area, you know what I'm talking about. So I wanted to look, so yeah, I focused more on those things, made it look really good, decent enough actually. I didn't make it look that good because I didn't have freaking time. So I did what I could. I fixed up some clipping, some weirdness going on. I also threw on some gloves, because for his newer designs he does have gloves on his hand. So I used the gloves that the model came with, and you know, I just kind of went with that. Then it was on to the texturing aspect of the character, you know. Yeah, it was nothing too complicated. I just, yeah, throwing together a bunch of nodes, I did the textures for the character. I'm just messing around with the node setup in Blender. Because you can do a lot if you know more so what you're doing with the materials and all the types of crazy shaders in Blender. You can actually do quite a bit, and so I was messing around with that. Unfortunately, in Eevee engine, which I wasn't rendered in because cycles takes forever, so I decided I'm gonna render out in Blender's real-time Eevee engine. Unfortunately, they don't have displacement in that mode, not as of now. They will have it, I think, in the future, Blender 3.4, I think. But in this version of Blender, they do not have the displacement, so I kind of had to makeshift my own displacement as I went along. But the normal mapping seemed to work quite well, so I went with that, and it looked pretty decent enough. You know, I knew it's gonna be some type of dark atmospheric place. So I knew, okay, I didn't have to add that much detail because you might not see as much as you would want. There's going to be slight flashes of light because of the lightning that you'll see later on I added. So yeah, you wouldn't actually notice all the crazy details with the characters. So I was like, okay, cool, that's fine. That was actually one of the reasons why I chose a nice dark background, so that you don't see every single detail. I was also thinking about doing a sunset scene, because the sun setting, so the light is like peering, like coming behind him. It's like a nice martial arts scene. But I've seen actually someone has done that in their submission as well. So I was like, you know what? Let's do our own thing. And in the story, Nathan, this is my webcomic. Nathan, the main character of my webcomic, he actually trains in like this underground abandoned train station. So I thought, okay, let's go with that, you know. And I put together this idea for I searched up some reference, you know, for a nice broken underground train station. But before I get into that, actually, I want to talk more about the texture of his skin and what I actually did with that, because you'll see I kind of messed around with some more of the nodes to kind of get that subsurface scattering. If you don't know what subsurface scattering is, it's kind of when the light goes through your skin and it like basically you can see the veins and like the redness of your skin. So I was messing around with some of the nodes to get that effect, like actual skin, but not too much like actual skin because it's a stylized character. So you can't go into that weird uncanny valley with the character. So I just kind of worked around it, did kind of what I could there. It came out pretty decent, pretty, you know, alright. I was like, okay, it's gonna be fine with the lighting setup and everything. I think it's gonna work quite well. And then I actually wanted to experiment with actually making an eye, because I've seen plenty of tutorials back, like way back. So I was like, you know what, I'm gonna try my own way and see the best way I can use the textures I have, and also Blender's procedural nodes, and see exactly what I can do with that to make an actual eye. So I was messing around with it. I grabbed a just a texture, a random iris texture from Google somewhere. Instead of making it repeat, I made a clip so that the texture, when it clips, it just repeats it only once. And then I kind of moved it around using a bunch of mix shaders as well as a gradient for the veiny parts of the eyes. I threw in a mass grave texture, messed around with a bunch of color nodes, and bam, I got a cool looking eye, man. Got the nice veiny parts, I got the iris, everything's looking good, nice and glossy, adding that nice gloss like eye effect as well. And there's something cool I do with the eye later on that you'll soon see. I make it kind of like emit some light, because when Nathan uses his powers, his eyes glow, or his eye glows. As you'll see later on, he actually only has one eye from the reference I'm using on the side. So I just kept it as it is, just for the mirror modifier, because I didn't want to apply it yet. I only applied once I have all the changes in. So I thought, okay, in the meantime, let's actually get the hair done. So basically what I did for the hair, I looked up some tutorials on how to create stylized hair, and I remember there was one where you use a bunch of curves to make it, and basically that was the method I used for the hair. Bunch of curves, and bam, we got this cool thing. And you can actually like turn the curves into geometry and then reference a curve for the slight variations within the hair strand. And at first I thought I was going to use a particle hair system with the stylized hair so that it can actually flow in real time, but I noticed that that just didn't work. For some reason it didn't want to bring the curves into the particle system, so I was like, okay, well, I just have to do this manually. So I manually went through, took the strands, I duplicate some of them, you know, pop them here, pop them there, and we have the hair. You know what I'm saying? It worked pretty well. I did the same with the eyebrows. I used the default texture as a reference to where the eyebrows would be on the face, and I just put that over there because the texture was looking a bit, you know, too pixelated, and I wanted it to be more sharpened and more stylized. So I went with actually geometry for his, like, I went with actual geometry for his eyebrows rather than texture, and that went actually quite well with what I had. As you can see, he's quite a handsome man, you know, has nice luscious lips. That's cool. That came with the model. I kind of edited the lips a bit because it looked kind of off from the character model, and then it kind of came along, and then I moved on to applying my mirror modifier and then fixing up the eye a bit, and actually making it look like the reference, because he has like a really messed up eye here, and he has like this huge scar on his forehead and across his nose as well as on one of his cheeks. So what I did was I painted like a mask, basically texture painted a mask over the face. I took out one of his eyebrows because he doesn't have the eyebrow like with a scar obviously being there. So I took out one of the eyebrows, and I painted in the mask for where the scars would be. I messed around with some more nodes to get a nice good looking scar texture, and I actually managed to do some displacement on it The displacement is not good, but it worked pretty well with the scar, and it actually added some for like you can see it added some more details in terms of it like actually embedding it in his skin, and that's actually pretty cool. So it looks like an actual scar now, and you can see it's actually giving some displacement off, and it looks like it's actually part of it looks like a mesh actually, so it's pretty cool. So I went on and cleaned up some of the geometry, messed around with cleaning up some of the materials a bit more. It came out pretty well, you know. I took a render, showed my friends, they were like, oh damn, it's cool. And I cleaned up some of the textures also a bit more and made it look a bit more. I added some more imperfections as well to make it look like, you know, dirty, or like it's been like he's been fighting it for quite some time. And after that, it was pretty cool. Then I applied the mesh to the rig to see how it would move with the rig. So it didn't actually work out, as obviously it's not going to work out immediately if you add the automatic weights in Blender. You kind of have to go in and texture, or not texture paint, Whyt paint those vertex groups onto your character. So what I did was I went into the animation, I checked out the curves on the animation as I was moving along, and as it was animating I was painting the weights on, because that's the best way to actually see how the weights are being distributed amongst the vertex groups within the character, is actually do it while the character is animating or moving around, so you can actually see where the creases and bends is going to be within the arms, the legs, you know. So you can go around, you can take away some, add some wherever you need, and basically what the weights do is tells the mesh which exact part of the body the bones should move, and you can mess around with it a bit and actually get some really cool results right there. Normally, this is not one of the rigs I use. I usually use the auto rig in Blender, and the weight painting is much more simpler with that. This rig actually gave me a bunch of crazy shit, so I basically had to. Also, there was a lot of exaggeration in the movements. Obviously, this is taken from an actual guy, although the rig itself, I feel like some of the points on the rig weren't captured correctly, and I know Clint said he actually repositioned some of the bones to make the movements look a bit or he kind of fixed it up a bit so it isn't as, you know, weird or moving in too much out of the movements that is needed for the challenge. Otherwise, you know, there is always going to be clipping, and obviously to remedy that I had to weight paint more and add more things here and there, and as I went along with the animation I just kept going, kept moving. The weight painting actually didn't take up as much time as I thought it would. Was actually the most easiest part of the process because I'm pretty decent at what I do. This is kind of my job, so I got a lot done in the first 3 days. You know, I got a lot done. Just a reminder, I had 9 days to do this, so the first 3 days were gone. Just weight painting and setting up the character, it took me 3 days. So I had that's also counting the fact that I had to actually work on those days and actually do some work. So if you think about it, I only had about 6 hours each day to actually work on this, sometimes even less. So probably if you add up the hours, probably adds up to like an entire day just working on this thing. I managed to stick through it and do what I gotta do, and then, you know, I wanted to make it look a bit cooler in terms of the hair movement, because the hair movement looked way too static. And I think at this point, let me just check here in the video, after I fixed up all the clipping and all the weirdness that was going on with the mesh, I think I actually tied out some soft body physics with his clothes to make the cloth simulation move along with the clothes here. It didn't work out pretty well. It didn't work, okay? I don't know what's going on with the clothes. Although the soft body physics for the hair worked like a charm. I don't know what is the difference. I don't know. Maybe I forgot to add a lattice to it. Maybe that's it. Maybe I forgot to add a lattice to the clothing. I'll keep it in mind next time I do it. But okay. So I moved on to the hair, and as you can see, I did a little cool thing. If you guys have been watching my TikToks and Instagram stuff, you know, you see in the hair physics was fairly easy to make. very easy. Like I forgot how easy soft body physics is. As you can see, it's something weird happened here because I tried to do collisions with the hair, but I realized that that's not gonna work because of some other stuff. And yeah, the hair came out pretty well. It worked as it's supposed to work, and I was pretty happy with it. There was a little bit of shakiness at the end of the animation where I was like, oh shit, okay, I'm gonna have to stop that. But the easiest way to do that is just turn off the modifier. So basically, you animate the modifier when you want it to be on and off. So you just animate when you need the soft body physics for the hair to move, and then you turn it off when you want it off. And that remedies that as well. So yeah, just that's a quick tip there for you guys. That's something that I just thought about when I was working on this. And then I thought about doing this cool little sunset scene, as you guys can see here. I thought it would be cool, but obviously, like I said, somebody else did it. So I thought it would be weird if I did the same thing as them, and you know, obviously their animation was way better than mine because they had more time. So I was like, fuck, okay. That's when I decided about that train, that subway background, because I thought it would add more to the atmosphere of the animation, as well as adding more to my character's story, and it actually goes within, you know, the character's narrative as well. So that's pretty cool. But of course, you would only know that if you've read my comic, but otherwise you wouldn't know that at all. So anyway, I moved to some compositing stuff to test out exactly what I could do in Blender with the compositor, and I wasn't too happy with the results. I still felt like I needed to learn more about it because I wasn't doing too much. So I move on to the subway background because I was like, holy shit, this doesn't look way better. As you can see, I have my reference up in the corner. It's supposed to be like a grungy, dirty type of abandoned subway. I wanted some nice eerie lighting, some nice, make it look kind of menacing in a way. That's what I wanted. I did that, and what I wanted also, this is one of the things that I would have done if I had time, was that I wanted the subway station to break away. Using geometry nodes, I would have make it like break away, and it would have shown like this whole crazy dimensional thing behind him, and then as he finishes the animation, the dimension closes, the background kind of reforms itself back into the subway station. But unfortunately, I didn't have all that time, so maybe for another contest I can try something like that out, or another challenge, you know. As you can see, I'm messing around with assets on the Quixel Bridge assets I was messing with, and unfortunately I was like, well, this is shit, because I for some reason I couldn't get all the textures. I could only get the normal maps, the rough maps, and I couldn't get the actual textures. So I was messing around more with the nodes, make the textures look a bit more decent without having the actual color information like the albedo. So fuck it, you know, I did what I could. I stole these trains from Sketchfab. Shout out to the guy who made that. I did mess around with the textures. I cleaned up some of the geometry because he didn't really care about the geometry, so I cleaned it up a bit. I added what I can. I messed around with the textures a bit more, and I think at this point, I think somewhere along the line, I actually managed to get some decent textures from Quixel Bridge, and found a way, thanks to my friend Waldo, who actually showed me how to actually download the stuff properly from Quixel Bridge. So as you can see, I added my cool ass lighting, and I added my pillars, I added the trains, I added the dirt, I added the debris, I added everything. Oh my god, it looks so good. I remember like just being like so happy. I was like, fucking hell, I finally made it through this section of my challenge. Moving on, this is the part where I kind of make the eye glow, which was really cool. Really there, I went in there. It took me a while to figure out how I would do that actually. Yeah, I managed to figure it out. I put it together, a nice glowing eye. Unfortunately, I couldn't do like a stream, you know, like a light stream. You know, our eyes kind of like give off that like trailing stream when they move around. Unfortunately, I couldn't do that in After Effects because I didn't have the time. Yeah, I just kept moving, and then I thought about doing some lightning or like charging effect on the character, but I first fixed up the background a bit more, you know, added some more stuff. I was also kind of figuring out how to add some more depth to the environment. I know there is a depth pass on Blender. It didn't add as much depth as I would want it to, and then, you know, I realized that I need actually to add some like mist or like some dust effect, you know. I don't think in this point I get into it, but I'll get into it later. Yeah, this is the point where I kind of figured out exactly how to apply the textures. So I kind of mixed it up with the Blender nodes and mixed around some of the textures, added some more imperfections, added some more details. Crazy nuts with the nodes. I went as crazy as I could, throwing whatever I could together. Yeah, and this is kind of where I added a nice particle like smokes effects. By the way, surprise, surprise, it's not actually a particle system. It was a cube that I added a nice volumetric texture or shader onto it, and so it kind of gave this nice depth and atmosphere to the scene. And then basically what I did was I actually animated the texture mapping node, as you can see on the side. Hopefully you can. The dust particle, the volumetric shader, basically I just messed with the mapping of it slightly. I noticed that you just have to slightly animate it, because I just wanted a slight drop in terms of the dust particles. I didn't want it to fall down like rain, which is exactly what happened the first time I tried it. But basically I messed around with it and it fell down and it looked really good. It looked like the dust was like falling down from the sky as it was moving, and it was so cool. What I did was I tried to do like a kind of like a dust cloud poofing from the bottom of his legs, kind of shooting out like kind of like a shock wave as he was doing these big movements. But it didn't look as good as I thought it would. Maybe it's because I didn't animate it as well. Maybe I still need to know more about it. Unfortunately, I didn't have time. Most of the time when I tried these things and I wanted to add more to it, I didn't have time and I just had to move on. As you can see, I think if you've been watching the video and you check in the corner of Blender, this is version 4 of the scene, which means I've been through 4 iterations and I basically changed it. Yeah, and as I'm going here, you can see this is basically where I found these like lightning setup, thanks to so I can't remember the guy's name, but I will add it on the screen or in the description down below. This guy makes a really cool like lightning and DBZ like charging effects, and I thought I could use that to my advantage. So the cool thing is, it's some sort of like I forgot what you call this. It's some sort of particle thing. But basically I painted the lightning to the arms, so it follows the arms as it moves along. And as you can see, the mesh does this thing where it like kind of bleeds into the other mesh. So that was pretty cool. And I kind of just moved it around and painted in places that I felt like that's where the lightning would kind of emerge from as it's moving. And as you can see, this looks really cool. The lightning is moving around with the character. I tried to add some DBZ charging effects, but it looked too crazy, so I just had to tone it down a bit. I messed around with the lightning a bit, but I was following the arms way too much, so I had to add some more noise to it, or some more distortion, so that it doesn't look too rounded off or too perfect. Because as you know, lightning is more chaotic and it does its own thing. It moves all over the place. So obviously I didn't want it to look as if it was in uniform and moving in order of the arms and everything. So I kind of had to break it up by I felt the best way to do this was add a particle system and kind of make the lightning orb objects kind of emerge from the particle system to break up the same mesh that's around the character as it's moving upward. And yeah, it was pretty cool. I did what I could there, but I noticed that the particle system wasn't breaking up well enough. Yeah, so what I did was I took those big ass orbs and I basically just placed them all over the scene so that they can break it up in certain areas of the animation. And also it can also do this thing, because you know how lightning kind of like clings onto the ground or certain areas or surfaces as it's kind of like shooting everywhere. I kind of wanted to give that effect as well, so I kind of messed around with that and gave me some good results. I was very happy with the final results actually. Really cool lightning stuff. There's a lot of stuff I could have improved on if I had more time. I could have done more better on the cloth physics, and I found a cool ass tutorial that actually do some really good cloth physics with simple like weight painting using the soft body physics basically of the character or the mesh, so to say. And you could actually like make the clothes moves with weight painting and stuff like that. So that was pretty cool figuring that out. But unfortunately I didn't have time to actually figure it fully out, so I couldn't do a lot of cloth simulations on this character, so I did what I could with just the minimum weight painting that I could do. And you know what, it actually turned out better than I expected with the limited amount of time I had, the resources that I could manage to gather within that short amount of time, what I could do, the composition, everything. And at the beginning of September, I'm preparing for the next challenge. Whatever you got from me, Clint, I'm going for it, man. I'm ready for the next one, hopefully. And I know there's a few other comic challenge I will be entering, so we'll see how that goes. But yeah, this is just a quick breakdown of the process and what exactly I went through. If you guys want more detail on the finished, completed file of this, maybe I will upload it to my Patreon or something, you know, so you guys, maybe I should drop it on my Ko-fi. I feel like Ko-fi would be a better place. Maybe I feel like maybe I'll drop it on my Patreon and my Ko-fi as well, and you can support me as well. But otherwise, I will drop the file in there. I'll drop all the links as well as everything I've referenced within this video, everything from the assets I've used all the way up to the textures where I got everything from. I will add links to as well as credits to those people who whose assets I've used within this project, and it's really helped me. It's really good. You guys should go check them out and go support them as well, because they make really cool things that you can use in your, you know, everyday working projects or whatever side projects you're doing. And it's just to make your life easier, and you know, as you go along, you make some really cool stuff, and I'm pretty sure they won't mind you using this stuff to make some really interesting stuff. That's kind of what I love about this community, is just everybody, you know, just wants to make cool stuff, and they love sharing information. They love sharing what they've learned or what they or they love also asking ways in which they can improve. And I love that about the animation / CGI / you know, VFX community. They're very inquisitive as well as curious, and also very determined to make some cool stuff. And for those of you who don't know, this is basically what I do for a living. I'm a 3D generalist. I do animations, all these type of things within Blender. I've learned a lot, things that I can actually use in my everyday work, and things that I can pick up on for the next challenge, and you know, improve myself and improve what the stuff I've done. I'm looking forward to more crazy stuff I can do, and I'm always ready to push that envelope. So let's see what we can do in the next freaking challenge. By the way, my voice is freaking gone. I've been talking for almost 40 minutes here straight, you know. But thank you guys for watching this video. If you liked it, this is your second reminder to hit that like button, subscribe, as well as ring that notification bell. If you want to be notified of anything else I do, I will be doing some more animation breakdowns in the future, as well as maybe I go through some Blender stuff in the future as well, if you guys enjoy it, if you guys want more. But if you guys just want to listen to me ramble, I have a series called Coffee and Chainsaws, where I just talk about, you know, my everyday things I do within the week, challenges I face, the comics I work on, all that types of stuff. So if you guys are interested, go ahead and check that out. I do live stream every Saturday. I've also changed my live streaming schedule up a bit, so I will no longer be waking up at 4 a.m. in the morning to stream, because in South Africa 4 a.m. in America is 10 p.m. from what I gather. So I'll be streaming from 9 p.m. onwards, my time, which is SAST time. Yeah, should be 3 p.m. EST. So yeah, be on the lookout for that every Saturday. And I do upload videos every Thursdays at around about, which is 2 p.m. EST, or is it, who gives a fuck? Just keep a lookout for the work that I do, man. See you guys in the next video. Bye bye, guys.